What? I said, oh, you. Yeah! Can't steal it! Woo! Wheel and deal it! The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better. I got 141 and 2/3 chance of winning. But brother, I am bad and they know I'm bad.
I'm the man of the hour, the man with the power. You sleep to be sour.
It's showtime, folks!
Welcome to the Grill Out. From the heart of Shillian, West Virginia, here's your host, Hollywood Jeff Petty.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Grill Out. My name is Hollywood Jeff Petty. This is episode 57, and I will apologize in advance because, as you can tell, I'm feeling a little under the weather. It's that time of year, usually about mid-October and mid-April. Around those times is when I typically will start to get sick. I start to get real congested and whatnot. So I apologize for that in advance. Also, Josh nor Jason will be here on the show with me today. Josh is off on assignment elsewhere, and Jason is off on to an undisclosed location. Also, I didn't want to get neither one of them sick, per se, so I just went ahead and decided, okay, I'll just do the show myself. I'm fully capable to do that. I just enjoy having both of them here. But that is not why you're here. You're here for professional wrestling. That's why we're all here. And just because we've been talking so much about television contracts and where wrestling is going to go and what the changes are going to be, this is something that we have speculated several times on the show so far. Peacock is apparently going to lose WWE PLEs when their current deal ends. This is coming from Cultaholic.com. The expectation within Peacock is that WWE's content will leave the streaming service when their current deal comes to an end in 2026. This is according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, who has reported that expectation within Peacock is that WWE will move everything to Netflix. Again, we've talked about this on the show with this new Netflix deal. It seems like that is the direction that WWE is going to go in. I mean, it only makes sense. If you're going to put your flagship show, Monday Night Raw, exclusively on a streaming service, exclusively on one of the biggest, if not the biggest streaming services in the world, Netflix, it only makes sense to eventually take your PLEs, or what other old school, like older fans will call pay-per-views. They're not pay-per-views anymore, they're PLEs. They will be moved over to, allegedly, to Netflix once the Peacock deal comes to an end in 2026. Now, NBC Universal, they will still have a working relationship with WWE simply because of SmackDown being on the USA Network, but it does look like that there is at least a possibility. Now, that this is nothing confirmed. We don't have any confirmation on that. It is speculation, but that is something that we have speculated quite often on this on the show. Like what I've said, we just, again, it only makes sense. It only makes sense for WWE to eventually put their PLEs on Netflix. And speaking of PLEs, WWE's next PLE will be Crown Jewel, which, you know, takes place from Saudi Arabia. They unveiled at Bad Blood the Crown Jewel Championship, the monumental historical announcement, or however you want to word it, that Triple H had at Bad Blood. He unveiled the Crown Jewel Championship. There will be champions versus champions, and then, you know, they will all go and face each other for the Crown Jewel Championship. This is coming from WrestleVotes. They say that the Saudi championships will be exclusive for Saudi shows and will not be mentioned throughout the year. Quote, "The Crown Jewel Championships we're hearing are strictly for Saudi Arabia. They may appear the week after as Raw is in Saudi Arabia, but they are currently scheduled not to be full-time television titles, and they will not be defended throughout the year. More of a winning of the King of the Ring type thing, where you win it, you celebrate, and then we move on." They go on to talk about how Braun Strowman won, you know, the greatest Royal Rumble title. And it's it's going to be something very similar to that. It's like, okay, we have our 1 or 2 Saudi shows a year, and we have this tournament. This person wins the Crown Jewel Championship. Good for them. It goes on the resume. Let's move on to the next thing, because we have, After Saudi, I think there's one more PLE, and then we have the Royal Rumble. Wow. This year has flown by. And actually, I have a comment here from Josh. He says pretty much how he thought this would go, just a once a year thing, kind of like how AEW has the Owen Hart Cup championship belts that aren't actually defended and basically disappear after a couple of weeks. These Crown Jewel championships will just be a trophy for this annual match between the world champions. Now, we do have a couple of confirmed matches for WWE Crown Jewels so far. There is a Women's World Champion Liv Morgan will take on WWE Women's Champion Nia Jax, and World Heavyweight Champion Gunther will take on undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes. And those are the only two confirmed matches for the Crown Jewel Championships, and currently the only matches confirmed for Crown Jewel itself. This is this is not something that is too far out of the realm of possibility for professional wrestling. If you know the history of the IWGP title, okay, we now what we know now as the IWGP Heavyweight title. Okay, now that's sort of a new thing. The previous lineage, well, the World Heavyweight title. Let me correct myself there. Excuse me. The IWGP World Heavyweight title. Okay, it's a new thing. But before that, you had the IWGP Heavyweight title, and that lineage went all the way back to the 80s. In fact, Hulk Hogan won that title one time. Okay, he never defended it because during that time, it was a tournament known as the International Wrestling Grand Prix, the IWGP, and the winner of that tournament received a belt, and then, they didn't defend that belt. Okay, and then they had the tournament again the next year, and then eventually they did make that into a championship belt to where you could defend it. Same principle here, same exact thing. Like I said, it doesn't. It's not shocking, and Josh even is saying that this is how he thought it would go. I think that in a way, like how AEW has entirely too many championships, that's partially because of Ring of Honor and whatnot. I think if WWE did have a Saudi Arabia championship that they defended on a regular basis on WWE television, we would be moving into the same direction of having too many titles, not enough people to put the titles on, etc., etc., etc. I am not, again, I don't have a problem with this. I think it is a good way to go. And also, I'm not trying. If you've noticed on these Saudi Arabia shows, and up until here recently, they were pretty much glorified house shows. I mean, they weren't in the. This is for all of my anime fans out there, and I hope everybody that is playing Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is enjoying themselves. But for all of my anime fans out there, just fandoms in general, they used to not be canon. Okay, that's why Braun Strowman won the greatest Royal Rumble title. Okay, it wasn't considered canon. So these Saudi Arabia shows really are tailored for the Saudi people, for the Saudi royal family and all of that, because they are forking over a lot of cash for that. They asked for Yokozuna, and we don't. Somebody had to explain to them why you can't have Yokozuna and why you can't have Andre the Giant. But money can't buy everything. But that's what I mean. Like, these shows are more tailored for them. Now, WWE has made it to where they are more canon, per se, more in the universe, no pun intended, inside of the WWE universe, not just a glorified, souped-up house show. But, yeah, that's all we know so far about the matches confirmed for WWE Crown Jewel. And, of course, we will have predictions for that. Now, speaking of predictions, just because of the time that this recording is coming out, we do not have the predictions for Wrestle Dream yet. We don't have the results for that, but we will be putting that on the Facebook page. And then, eventually when we return, we will be talking about that. But just to stick with WWE, AJ Styles possibly injured, and he's on his farewell tour. AJ Styles suffered a mid-foot ligament sprain and was said to be pretty mad about the whole thing. He was set to begin a storyline that would be his farewell tour and would tease retirement. It's reportedly still the plan pending the results of his MRI. We haven't heard anything about the MRI. There was a planned spot, from my understanding, of AJ Styles getting injured, and that was kind of how it was supposed to go, but AJ Styles landed wrong, and he like I said, suffered a midfoot ligament sprain. That's what they're saying. That's all that we know at the moment. And Styles has talked a lot about retiring. He's been talking more and more here within the past few years that he is coming up on his end. Like he's like, I've put my time in, and he has. He absolutely has. You have to think, this man has been in professional wrestling. He was, I think at the end of WCW, and that was 2001, 2000, I think around that time was when he was wrestling for WCW a little bit, and then, then WWF at the time comes in, buys him out. AJ Styles, I think he did a couple of dark matches for WWF at the time, and then, the startup known as TNA came about, and he went over there, and rightfully so. He made a name for himself. Imagine AJ Styles staying within the WWF system back in the early 2000s. Okay, he's phenomenal, but I think he would have gotten lost in the shuffle like so many others have, and it was smart for him to go over to TNA. So the man has put in his time. He's been with WWE now for close to 9-10 years now. Doesn't seem like it. It really doesn't seem like it. Like, sometimes when I sit there and I see AJ Styles, I'm like, wow, like, this man, like, he's put in his time. He's been around, okay, but he's been in WWE for a minute. And sometimes when I look at him, I still think TNA, and and I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. It's just how I was first introduced to AJ Styles was because of TNA wrestling back in the day, back in the mid 2000s, and the fact that he's like, I think I'm winding down now. So, we'll see on that. AJ Styles hasn't been around. He hasn't been on television for a little bit. So maybe he's taken some time off, to enjoy some time with his family, to sort of make those preparations for his inevitable retirement. AJ Styles is 47 years old, so he is up there in age. Like I said, he's talked about possibly hanging it up, which I don't blame him. He's put in his time. He really has. He is a legend. You can't take that away from him. So it does look like AJ Styles will be hanging up the boots. But when will that happen? I don't know, but it does seem like he is going to go on his farewell tour. And AJ Styles, just to segue into our next part, AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes, did have a 5-star match earlier this year, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, at Backlash France. Now, there's things with Meltzer that I agree with. There's certain times matches where I'm like, hey, that's a 5-star match, and then he'll give it 4 stars or 4.25 or 4.5. That's okay. Meltzer has said before that, hey, you don't have to give, you don't have to agree with me. That's what he thinks. He thinks it's a 5-star match. Some people treat it like the gospel. I use it more or less as a guide for great professional wrestling. Okay, so that's the best way I can put it. I just look at it as great professional wrestling, as a sort of a roadmap for great professional wrestling. So speaking of the 5-star matches, Drew McIntyre and CM Punk's Hell in a Cell match this past weekend, last weekend at Bad Blood, did receive 5 stars from the Wrestling Observer newsletter and from Dave Meltzer. It is Drew McIntyre's first 5-star match. It's Punk's second 5-star match. If you remember back in 2011 at Money in the Bank, him and John Cena, that whole, the main event there where Punk's coming in and, if he wins the title, he's going to leave. He hasn't signed his contract yet. He's not under contract. Like, John Cena has to win it. And then, there's the famous shot of Punk after he wins and he blows Vince McMahon the kiss, and he's like, toodles, just bye-bye. That was Punk's first 5-star match, but now he has 2 under his belt. Drew has 1, and it is WWE's second of the year, actually. Okay? That's what I mean. I've said it before on the program, and I'll keep saying it, and I'll say it again. And Meltzer has said publicly, you don't have to agree with him, and you don't have to agree with him on this one. I did go back and watch it. I agree with this. I absolutely agree with this. I think, in my opinion, WWE has had more than 2 5-star matches this year. That's just in my opinion. But I do agree with Meltzer here. It is a 5-star match. Now, some people were talking about the blood that was used in this match where both competitors got collar. I've heard reports that pretty much it's been universally agreed that CM Punk was supposed to get collar in the match. But it is not universally agreed upon that Drew McIntyre was supposed to get collar in a match. Some say he was, some say he wasn't. He did have that nasty spot with the steps that did bust him open, and and we talked about it last week on the show. We gave it 1 Muda on the infamous Muda scale. So yeah, but it seems like to me, and this is also coming from Meltzer, so and again, I think that there is some validity to this. WWE is rolling back on their blood policy, on their getting collar policy. And I think that is a good thing. But the thing is, they don't want it used all the time. They want to use it for, air quotes, key matches, which that's fine. We don't need to have, a simple, submission match or just a simple one-on-one match, and every single one of them on the card, somebody's getting collar. Okay, I have respect for those that were professional wrestlers back in the day. Back in the 80s. Harley Race, Ric Flair, Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher, etc., etc. I have respect for them, but Dusty Rhodes is another one. Not that they got collar in every one of their matches, but the famous thing with Flair is his hair. Flair would get collar, and he would constantly be taking his hand and running it back into his bleach blonde hair to make it crimson red. It added that factor to the match. But with that being said, not every single match has to be like that. I don't need that. I don't need that. As somebody who is viewing professional wrestling, I don't need to see blood in every single match. Now, when I do see it, I want it to be impactful, like it was with this Hell in a Cell match. I will say sometimes AEW goes a little too far with it. Okay, and that is up for debate where they have crossed the line. I don't know if they've crossed the line. I think they've just diluted it more. But again, that is my humble opinion on that. Nothing against anybody else. Nothing against whoever is this and that or the other. But I think it is. I think that it needs to be impactful. And CM Punk has said that, speaking of the Hell in a Cell match and all of this, CM Punk has wanted to make the Hell in a Cell match mean more. And it should. The Hell in a Cell match, we shouldn't be sitting there going, it's just another gimmick match. It'll be all right. We don't need that. We need the Hell in a Cell match to be, these, like with the Drew McIntyre CM Punk feud. You have this blood feud between the two of them. I've said on the show before that Drew McIntyre, the hatred he has for CM Punk could power a small village. And that's true. The hatred he has for him in storyline. And it built to this crescendo with the Hell in a Cell match. And that's what we got last week on Bad Blood, last weekend. And I agree with it. I don't want to see it all the time, but I want to see it some of the time. Okay, and I don't knock anybody that likes deathmatch wrestling, but that's part of the reason why I don't watch deathmatch wrestling that much. Is because, there's crazy spot after crazy spot after crazy spot. After a while, you become desensitized to it. You will not sit there and okay, here we go. We got another one. We got another one. We got some more blood. We got some more. Whereas, with the CM Punk Drew McIntyre match, you're sitting there, you're watching it, and you see this. You see it just pouring out of them. Again, we gave it 1 Muda. Okay, go listen to our Grill Out Hot Tags on our first episode talking about the infamous Muda scale and how it became a thing. We gave it 1 Muda, and that's saying something. Okay, one mood is a lot. But I do. I agree with WWE on this one, and I don't think it should be diluted, and I think it should be used in key matches. I don't know if there's much of an argument you can make there. Okay, but hey, that's just me. I'm just a guy talking on the radio, okay? Talking on here. If you're listening to this on 1490 AM WSWW, thank you for joining us. If you're listening to this on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, YouTube, we've had a lot of hits on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Keep spreading the word about this show. We're doing this literally for the love of professional wrestling, and we are the only professional wrestling radio show in the state of West Virginia. So, going to go ahead and stop the news right there. We have now, I dropped my pen, we have now, on this day in wrestling history. October 13th, 1992, TV tapings for WWE Wrestling Challenge took place in Regina, just up the road from Saskatoon in Canada, where Bret Hart defeated Ric Flair for the WWE World title just 24 hours prior. The tapings aired on TV in early November and are most notably recalled for the WWE Tag Team titles changing hands when Money Inc. defeated the Natural Disasters for the belts when the champions were distracted by the debut in Head Shrinkers. As a result of storyline neglect from their manager, Jimmy Hart, since SummerSlam, the Nasty Boys turned face and attacked DiBiase and IRS in the ring prior to the tag title match. Also at these tapings, Marty Jannetty returned to in-ring competition, and Shawn Michaels defeated the Big Boss Man by countout. October 13th, 1997, on WCW Monday Nitro from Tampa Bay, Florida, Hollywood Hogan was looking for revenge on Rowdy Roddy Piper. The Steiner brothers faced Scott Hall and Syxx, X-Pac. Also, Dean Malenko faced Rey Mysterio, and in the main event, Diamond Dallas Page took on Curt Hennig. And then finally, on October 13th, 2014, at the King of Pro Wrestling event in Tokyo, Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated AJ Styles to win the IWGP Heavyweight title for a record 7th time. Tanahashi would go on to win the title, I believe, one more time, and that was from Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 13. Kenny Omega, of course, was the champion, and Tanahashi won the G1 Climax, went on, actually became the first person to win the G1 and go on to win the title at Wrestle Kingdom. And we will actually, speaking of King of Pro Wrestling, IWGP, New Japan, and all of that, we will have more of that later on in the main event. So, that's going to go ahead and close out this first segment, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, we have some more news involving WWE, a debut next week, some news on, or just addressing a rumor about Jim Johnston, and then also something that I learned about Mitsuharu Misawa. So stay tuned. Also, we have the main event coming up. So, yeah, stay tuned.
It's time for more of the Grill Out. Here's Hollywood Jeff Petty.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Grill Out. I'm your host, Hollywood Jeff Petty, and I'm not joined by my co-host. Okay, neither one of them are here today. One is on assignment. The other one is at an undisclosed location. Also, I'm feeling under the weather. Like I said in the previous segment, I'm not really, I don't want to get anybody sick. And, they have their own lives. And, we do this. I've said on the program before that we do this show out of the love of professional wrestling. That's really how the three of us became friends in the first place, was because all three of us were professional wrestling fans. So, professional wrestling makes the world go round. But yes, thank you for joining us here on the Grill Out, no matter where you're listening to this on. If you're listening to this on 1490 AM WSWW, or if you're listening to this on one of the many, many podcasting platforms we are on. So, yeah. I did mention in the previous segment about a debut that has been confirmed. The Motor City Machine Guns are all but confirmed for WWE. On this past episode of SmackDown, during a coming soon vignette, the letters MCMG popped up on the screen, basically saying that the Motor City Machine Guns are on their way to WWE, and they will debut next week on SmackDown. We talked about this last week. There was a lot of speculation about the Motor City Machine Guns. At one point, I think there was speculation that they were going to go to AEW, but it seems like the deal fell through there. So they are going to go over to WWE. Looks like they're going to skip right over NXT and go straight to the main roster and debut next week on SmackDown. And it, like I said, it was all but confirmed when the vignette started. We saw some... So, you know, in some of the vignettes, we saw images of the city of Detroit, which, you know, if you do not know, the city of Detroit's nickname is the Motor City. So, you know, you have the Motor City Machine Guns. But it does look like that they will be returning next week. Well, not returning. They will be debuting next week on SmackDown. See, this is how you can tell. This is how you can tell I'm sick. I know I mess up from time to time on this show. Okay, I try. I give it the old college try. But you could tell I'm hopped up a little bit on cough medicine because, yeah, anytime the weather changes, I tend to get sick. And just to stick with WWE, Def Rebel is pretty much out. You know, not out fully yet, but it seems like that is the direction that WWE is going to go in amidst a lot of criticism for Def Rebel's themes. And Josh, who has an extensive background in music, has said, you know, not all of his themes are bad, but some of them are not a lot of them are not the greatest. Okay, a lot of them just seem like they're mashed up and this and that. And then, you know, we had CFO at one point right after Jim Johnston was released by the company. CFO took over, and then they were, you know, let go, and then Def Rebel was brought in, and now here we are back at square one as far as WWE themes go. Not that every single theme was bad. You know, we talked about last week about the Bloodlines theme, about Roman Reigns' new theme. It's exceptional. It really is. It's a very good one. But then there's other ones where you're like, ooh, that's bad. But one person who hardly ever missed when it came to a professional wrestling theme, the legendary Jim Johnston. Now, a lot of people, with Def Rebel's inevitable exit from WWE from criticisms for their theme songs, some fans have wanted Jim Johnston to return to creating music for WWE. That may not happen at all due to the nature in which Johnson exited the company in 2017 and the fact that he is 72 years old. I didn't know Jim Johnston was that old. And for those of you out there that, you know, may have just tuned in, or you're like, hey, I heard about this professional wrestling podcast, I've been trying to get into pro wrestling, know that, you know, if you didn't watch wrestling pre-2017, okay, Jim Johnston, to put it into perspective, he is the John Williams. In my opinion, he is the John Williams of professional wrestling themes. Flat out, okay? The man never missed. He never did. There may have been a few bad themes, but there wasn't many. I promise you that one. There were not many bad themes that Jim Johnston, you know, put out there. Johnston has expressed interest in doing some pro wrestling themes. Most notably, he reached out to AEW a few years ago, but they did not have interest in the legendary composer. A year ago, Johnston did have this to say while speaking with Conrad Thompson on Conversations with Conrad, quote, I actually approached AEW at one point to write some themes for them with no interest. The way I approached it's very possible that the people in charge never got that memo. I'd be happy to write themes for them. I'd be happy to write themes for WWE, but I would never want to get as immersed as I was. So, yeah. And just to, you know, sing Jim Johnston's praises even more, you know, the Stone Cold's theme song, Mick Foley's theme song, The Undertaker's theme song, Kurt Angle. He wrote the game, you know, the song The Game for Triple H that Motorhead eventually played and recorded. You know, he wrote that. The man, I'm not saying that he is the John Williams of professional wrestling themes for just for, you know, just to say it. just for giggles, okay? I'm not saying it for that. I'm saying it simply because it is true. Jim Johnston is the man when it comes to professional wrestling themes. And listening to the Conrad Thompson interview, you could tell like the man still wants to make music, but I don't know who would have interest at the moment. I would honestly, just so Jim Johnston can get his flowers, I think he is easily a Hall of Fame contender for WWE or for the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, whichever. Especially the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, I don't know if maybe there's some bad feelings between the two parties, but I think that, I absolutely think that Jim Johnston should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Actually, let's start that now. If you're listening to this wherever, and there, you got a comment section below, go ahead and say Jim Johnston for, WWE Hall of Fame class of 2025. Class of 2026, 2027, 2028, whichever. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. I don't know if there is much, if any, argument against that. And that's, and that's my opinion. Again, some of the greatest themes, some of the greatest professional wrestling themes from my childhood were created by Jim Johnston. And I didn't know about Jim Johnston until I got my first professional wrestling record. Okay, which was, what was it? WWF Forcible Entry. Okay, I think that was 2002. There were a couple songs in there wrote by Jim Johnston. When I was younger and I was trying, I taught myself how to edit professional wrestling like Titantrons, like, the little entrance videos they have up on the big Titantron when they come out. I taught myself in Windows Movie Maker how to make those. And I'm not gonna lie, I did. I ripped some. I was able to find and acquire. I'll say this: I'll find and acquire some professional wrestling themes, and there was always, who is the artist of this? Jim Johnston. I've never heard of him. Then you get older, and you're like, oh wow, this guy really was like the conductor, for my childhood, which is crazy. But I truly do think that Jim Johnston should be in the Hall of Fame. But I don't think he will be returning. Some people are, and it's mainly online professional wrestling fans. I don't see Jim Johnston returning. I just don't. Again, the man is 72 years old. I think that there is still some bad blood. I don't know now with Triple H in charge, there may not be as much, and especially where, some of the old regime is gone, such as Kevin Dunn, who used to be the television director for WWE TV. Bruce Pritchard's still there. I don't know. I have no idea what kind of relationship he had with Jim Johnston, and Vince is not there. So, most of the old regime is not at WWE anymore. So I think there is a chance, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see them wanting to bring in somebody who is his age. I think they should, bring him in for a little bit. And he even said he doesn't want to be as immersed as he was. So maybe bring him in for special themes, special reasons. I do think that, I know I've already said it several times. I'm going to say it again. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Jim Johnston should easily be in the Hall of Fame. If we're going to put, Vince Sr.'s limo driver or whatever in the Hall of Fame, then Jim Johnston absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame. And I don't think there's any question there. I just don't. But it does not look like that Jim Johnston will be returning to WWE anytime soon. This past week, you've heard me on the program several times talk about how much I love Japanese wrestling. It's no secret. It's really not. Of how much I enjoy Puroresu. Okay. I did find a new wrestling YouTuber on YouTube to talk about, Japanese professional wrestling. And I think his name is Colin Wrestling on there. He does a phenomenal job of detailing these stories and stuff. And one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, he's in my top 5 easy, is one of the 4 pillars of All Japan in the 90s, and that's Mitsuharu Misawa. Now, for those of you that do not know, Mitsuharu Misawa is not... I won't dive too deep into it because I would like to do maybe a grill out hot tags on him. But Mitsuharu Misawa was at one point one of the most influential wrestlers in Japan. Okay, he was one of the top, if not the top professional wrestler in Japan. He was very close to Giant Baba, who was the head booker for All Japan back in the 80s, 90s, 70s, all of that. When Baba died, actually, Mitsuharu Misawa took over as president and pretty much took over Giant Baba's role. But that's when there were a lot of friction. Was a lot of friction between him and Baba's widow, who took care of the business side of things. She took care of merchandising and tickets and whatnot. You know, she was more of the business side of things, whereas Baba dealt more of the creative side. And also Baba's widow was known, his wife was known as the bearer of bad news. She would be the one to deliver the bad news to the wrestlers. They didn't want Baba doing it because they didn't want his, it was to keep his reputation intact with quote unquote the boys, with the locker room, so that he would still have their respect. But Mitsuharu Misawa, he has this friction between him and the wife of Giant Baba, the widow of Giant Baba, and they moved. It became so bad that Mitsuharu Misawa just quietly was going around telling everybody, "Hey, I got an idea. Like, let's just go start our own promotion." Okay. We'll he was approached by the people who had All Japan's television show. They approached Mitsuharu Misawa, was like, "Hey, we'll give it to you." And in like one fell swoop overnight, pretty much, Mitsuharu Misawa took everybody but like 2 wrestlers from All Japan's roster and took their TV slot and everything. Like, just crazy, just absolutely crazy. And, he created Pro Wrestling Noah. He was the top star in Pro Wrestling Noah. But later on in Mitsuharu Misawa's life, his health was really starting to deteriorate. And he had a style, Kento Kobashi, Toshiaki Kawada, and Akira Tao, all 4, they were the 4 pillars of All Japan. Jun Akiyama was also he wasn't part of the 4 pillars, but he was like an honorary member of them. They popularized this style of professional wrestling called King's Road. Because back in the 80s, the All Japan had a lot of no finishes, a lot of DQ finishes, a lot of run-ins, Once the new era came about, Misawa and company, that didn't happen very often. A lot of matches at that point, they either went to most of the time it went to a pinfall. You did have some submission matches, and every once in a while you would have a DQ, but not very often. But they popularized a style called King's Road, or Odo is another name for it. And it was a very hard-hitting style of professional wrestling. It was in a way similar to Japanese strong style, which took a lot of inspiration from mixed martial arts. But King's Road was something totally different. King's Road could be a rather dangerous style because there were a lot of dangerous bumps, a lot of neck bumps. I mean, look at what was it? The Tiger Driver 96. Like that was Misawa. Look at the Burning Hammer from Kento Kobashi. Like you're basically getting dropped on your head. The Gonzo Bomb, same thing. You're getting dropped on your head basically. Yeah, it's not like a power slam and you're landing on your back and you're taking most of the impact is being absorbed into your upper back and shoulders. Like some of it was being absorbed into their neck. So that Misawa never changed his style. Other wrestlers who were wrestling around the same time as him, such as Kaiji Muto, the Great Muta, he started having knee problems. He changed his style. He was wrestling around the time. He wasn't one of the top people at the time, but Stone Cold Steve Austin, notably, at one point was a rather technical professional wrestler. Gets dropped on his head. Hurt, he's having knee problems. He changed his style around to where he could be more of a brawler. Misawa never did that. Misawa kept that same hard-hitting King's Road style to him. And, that coupled with a poor diet and a constantly, working. Because at that time, Pro Wrestling Noah did not, a lot of their money didn't come from television. They had I think a 30-minute time slot at like midnight or 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. So a lot of their money didn't come from television. That was kind of where it was kind of like how it was. You know, you would use television to promote your house shows, and that's where you made your money. Kind of like how it was in the territory days. You didn't put everything on television. You wanted certain things to not be on television because you want people to come to the show. Same thing for Pro Wrestling Noah in those days, and that was early 2000s. So, I mean, and they were taking off, but it got to the point to where Misawa's hard-hitting style, his health, his some of his life choices. I think he did drink and he smoked cigarettes, and from what I heard, he never really slept very well, because he had the weight of the entire company on his shoulders, and it just all came to a head in 2009 when Misawa took just a simple back body drop. And it killed him right there. It was so I have wrote down here, Mitsuharu Misawa passed away in the ring from a flat body drop from Akitoshi Saito in 2009. His Kings Road style of wrestling coupled with poor diet led to his declining health and subsequent passing. It is believed that Misawa's death was caused by a cervical spinal cord injury that led to cardiac arrest. Now, the crazy thing, I've learned about this, but the crazy thing is about Misawa, 2 years before he died, Mitsuharu Misawa wrote a letter intended to be sent in case he died in the ring to his last opponent. It says something like, quote, "I'm sure you trusted me and were doing your best, and I betrayed that trust. I'm really sorry," end quote. And the letter goes on to say that I want you to continue professional wrestling. Saito didn't want to. Saito at one point was in a really dark place, and people were because Misawa was loved. He was beloved. I don't want to go too far into it, but he was beloved, and a lot of people, you see it these days, a lot of people went after Saito. Akitoshi Saito, really went after him, and he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve any of that. Did not deserve any of that. So, but I thought it's just a crazy thing I learned about Mitsuharu Misawa this past weekend. And at first I wasn't going to bring it up on here, but my girlfriend told me, she's like, "Hey, go ahead and give it a shot." Okay, all right. I'll go ahead and talk about it. The guys are not here, so I don't have to aggravate them. I can just aggravate you, the listener. I'm sorry. I do. I love Japanese wrestling. It's fascinating to me. I love American wrestling and Lucha Libre and then a British strong style and whatnot, but I don't know. There's something about Puroresu that just I really, really enjoy it. So, anywho, yeah, that's all that I have right now for Mitsuharu Misawa. Like I said, I do want to do a Grill Out hot tag on him, and we very well may in the future. We just did one on the infamous Muda scale and how it became a thing. Go check that out. That is on all of our podcasting platforms, including YouTube. But with that being said, we're going to pause it right there, shift gears, and now we have the main event.
It looks like all the talking has been done. It's time for the main event.
And now it is time for the main event, where we let you know what your upcoming week of professional wrestling is going to look like, internationally, nationally, and locally. I didn't say this at the top of the program. I probably should have. There will not be a Grill Out next week. There will not be an episode of the Grill Out next week. I will be out of town. Like I said, the other Josh and Jason both, they have other things to deal with. They have other things going on. But as far as the Grill Out goes, episode-wise next week, there will not be one. So with that being said, we're not just going to give you the next week of professional wrestling like we normally would. We're going to go ahead and give you the next 2 weeks of professional wrestling, and then we will come back on October, I think, 27th. So, yeah, next week is the 13th, and next week will be the 20th, and then after that, the 27th. Man, we're getting close to Halloween. Anyway, internationally, we have a couple of shows going on. Tonight, our time, it'll be tomorrow in Japan. New Japan Pro Wrestling's King of Pro Wrestling 2024. Zack Sabre Jr. will be taking on IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Tetsuya Naito. We talked about this before. Zack Sabre Jr. is only the second Gaijin to win the G1 Climax, and when you win the G1 Climax, you get a shot at the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Typically, the winner of the Climax will go to Wrestle Kingdom and face them in the main event. Not this time around. Zack Sabre Jr. wants to beat Tetsuya Naito so that the next week, on October 20th, New Japan Pro Wrestling's Royal Quest 4 will take place in England. He wants to walk in there in his home country with the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So again, and we talked a little bit about King of Pro Wrestling because it is around that time of year for that pay-per-view for New Japan. We talked about that in the On This Day in Wrestling History when Hiroshi Tanahashi beat AJ Styles to win his record 7th IWGP Heavyweight Championship, not World Heavyweight Championship. Yeah, there is a difference between the two, okay? I don't know the entire story off the top of my head. Plus, like I said, I'm a little under the weather right now, and so that's hindering certain things. But yeah, that's on October 14th. October 19th, AEW Battle of the Belts 12 at 10 p.m. Eastern on TNT immediately after Collision. So this upcoming Saturday, not only will you get AEW Collision, but right after that, you will get AEW Battle of the Belts. And as far as television, professional wrestling on television, it's going to be pretty much the same this week. Monday Night Raw is down to 2 hours, and it will remain at 2 hours until they go over to Netflix. But it will be Monday Night Raw. Tuesday will be NXT. Wednesday will be Dynamite. Dynamite is moving back to Wednesday this week. Thursday will be Ring of Honor and TNA. Friday will be SmackDown and Rampage. And then Saturday will be Collision, followed by Battle of the Belts 12 at 10 p.m. Eastern. October 26th, TNA's Bound for Glory pay-per-view. The TNA, in the main event, TNA World Champion Nick Nemeth will be defending his title against, say his name, and he appears, I believe, in Joe Hendry. I just had to do that. I'm such a dork. And then on October 27th, NXT Halloween Havoc will be taking place. Again, that is what your next couple of weeks will be internationally and nationally for professional wrestling. As far as locally, like I said, we're going to go ahead and give you a couple, the next couple of weeks. About a couple of weeks ago, we had announced that All Star Wrestling would hold a memorial event for Mike Little called Barbecue Beatdown at Little's Cafe in Stallings, West Virginia. However, it was canceled due to Hurricane Helene. That free event will now be held on Friday, October 18th, with a bell time of 7 o'clock, and make sure to bring your own chair. Yeah, it's BYOC. Bring your own chair. Yeah, it's right there. And again, that'll be on October 18th. Real Shoot Wrestling has 2 Halloween-themed shows this upcoming weekend. The first will be on Friday, October 18th, which will be at the Canal Lounge in Buchanan, West Virginia, presenting Necessary Evil. Bell time is 9 o'clock and tickets are $10, but this show is ages 21 and up. Their second show will be the following night on Saturday, October 19th, in Clarksburg, West Virginia, at the Harrison County Parks and Recreation Complex. This will have a bell time of 7 o'clock and is a free all-ages event entitled Infected. These next few are on Saturday, October 19th. Appalachian Championship Wrestling will be at the Winfield Riding Club in Winfield, West Virginia for Barnyard Beatdown 4. Meet and greet is at 6 o'clock and bell time is at 7 o'clock. This is a free event, but no donations are accepted, which benefit the West Virginia Horse Network. There is limited seating, so bring your own chair, and there will also be a costume contest. Yeah, go dress up as your favorite professional wrestler, okay? If I don't see at least one Macho Man Randy Savage, I will be a little bit disappointed. But that's just me. Atlantic Terror Championship Wrestling presents Bad Blood at the Leetown Community Center in Carneysville, West Virginia. Bell time is at 7 o'clock, and front row is $15 General admission is $12. Combat Championship Wrestling will be at the Willow Ridge Event Center in Barboursville, West Virginia for Demons Night. Bell time is 6 o'clock and general admission is $10, while kids 5 and under get in free. And there will also be a costume contest. West Virginia Wrestling Federation and Mountain Mama Wrestling will be at the Richardson Building in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Bell time is 7 o'clock and tickets are $10, while kids 5 and under get in free. For Saturday, October 26th, like I said, we're going to go ahead and give you the next couple of weeks of professional wrestling. So this segment, which normally would have already ended here, we're going to be moving on a little bit more. So for Saturday, October 26th, Appalachian Championship Wrestling will primarily does shows here in West Virginia, will be making a trip over to Ashland, Kentucky to present Halloween Hootenanny at Ashland's Town Center Mall. This is a free event with a bell time of 1 o'clock and will feature horror movie stars Micah Hughes and Bob Elmore. Elite Pro Wrestling Alliance will be at the Short Gap Volunteer Fire Department in Ridgely, West Virginia. Bell time is 7:30 p.m. and tickets are $25 for first row, $20 for second row, and $18 for general admission. Elite Pro also does regular shows typically every Thursday at 7 o'clock at the Indy Theater in Kaiser, West Virginia with a $10 admission. Premier Wrestling League Mid-Atlantic will be in Bluefield, West Virginia at Auntie Kaya's Daycare for a trunk or treat. This free event is from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock and will also feature bounce houses, free hot dogs, and candy for the kiddos. Food trucks, games, and a costume contest. Again, somebody better be showing up as Macho Man Randy Savage. And also make sure to bring your own chair. Again, BYOC. Y'all, BYOC. Make sure you got like some type of lawn chair, a camping chair, whatever in the trunk of your car so you can go to all these wonderful professional wrestling events. To continue for Saturday, October 26th, Premier Wrestling League Mid-Atlantic will be in Bluefield, West Virginia at Auntie Kai. Oh, yeah. Okay, I already said that one. Finally, for Saturday, October 26th, World Domination Wrestling Alliance will be in action for last rites at the Bennington Volunteer Fire Department in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Bell time is 6:15 and tickets are $20. If we missed any upcoming event over the next couple of weeks, they will be included in our announcements on our Facebook page. I've mentioned on the program before about how good of a job that Josh does with our social media. He is the main guy who handles the Facebook page. So we always give an update there of where you can find all of these professional wrestling events, where you can, where you can find all of these professional wrestling events. And if you have not liked the Facebook page, please do so. We've gotten so much engagement over there from people, from local promotions, from fans, from wrestlers alike. It's been very nice to see everybody showing their support for this show. And you know, we very much try our best to get the word out about local wrestling. You know, I've said numerous times on my social media accounts, support local wrestling. Everybody will talk about go out and support your mom and pop shops. And I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. But also go out and support your local professional wrestling promotions, because they put on great shows, and they don't have a TV deal to where they can lean back on that. You know, a lot of the professional wrestlers that go there, they have their own gimmick tables. You know, they make their money for the promotions themselves. I don't know this for sure or for a fact, but I believe that a lot of them, you know, rely on tickets. So go there for these for these events. Support these professional wrestlers. Support local wrestling, and of course, go like the Facebook page, because we will keep you updated on all of that. And we're going to stop it right there. And when we come back, we're going to wrap everything up. Stay tuned.
Once again, here's Hollywood Jeff Petty.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Grill Out, to the final segment. The show's practically over. We're just wrapping things up. I'm wrapping things up right now in a neat little bow. Like I said in the previous segment, there will not be an episode of the Grill Out next week. So October 20th, we will not have an episode go out. I will be out of town. I won't even be in the state next week. Josh and Jason both have other things, other obligations they have to take care of. So we're just going to take a break next week. We will be back, though, on October 27th. And like I said, for all of the local professional wrestling events, we will be posting about them on our Facebook page. And if you have not liked the Facebook page, just, go up to the search bar in Facebook, type in The Grill Out, and you'll see the logo. Okay, we're there. To everybody that has been talking on there, liking things, sharing it, whatever, thank you. And this is just something I want to say real quick as the host of this show. I just want to say thank you to everybody that has helped on this show, and I want to thank everybody that has shown their support for this show. It means a lot to the three of us when we, at times get recognized, or at times, we do get some type of thumbs up from people saying, hey, you guys are doing a good job, and we're trying. We do it for the love of professional wrestling. Like I said earlier in the show, towards the top of the show, is we're all three of us we're friends. We're fans of professional wrestling, and we became friends because of that. So, yeah, with that being said, go like the Facebook page. If you would like to, if you got comments on the show, you got something particular you want us to talk about, or a particular show you want us to cover, email us, thegrillout95@gmail.com. And again, we will not have a show next week. But with all of that being said, and until next time, my fellow wrestling fans, have a good one.
Goodbye. And good night. Bad.